There we go. So welcome everybody to our Thriving Village Halls event as part of Village Halls Week. I'm Nikki from Scottish Rural Action, and together with my colleague Arena and Amy from Social Enterprise Scotland will be facilitating the event today. Let me first start by saying what an amazing interest in this event. It really pays testament to the incredible work that's being done across Scotland in village halls and the energy and enthusiasm within the community. So it really is an honour to be hosting this event as part of Village Halls Week. Next slide, please. So just a wee bit of background about Scottish Rural Action. We are a Scottish charity supporting the grassroots-led rural movement in Scotland. And as a key part of this, we aim to support and recognise village halls as a lifeline for local people within rural communities for the amazing social benefits that they bring. How do we do this? Through campaigns and events such as this, through policy and advocacy work, and ensuring that community needs are represented further up the chain, and endorsing and encouraging best practice. And what we do also is we work with other organisations at a national level to develop and create and develop a national support network. And an example of some of the work that's going on behind the scenes, Amy will get on to shortly. So next slide, please. So in terms of today's event, very briefly and what to expect today, we're welcoming three presenters, Emma from Balerno Village Trust on the outskirts of Edinburgh, Ros from Collintrive Village Hall on the Cowal Peninsula in Argyll, and Moira from Brodick Village Hall on the Isle of Arran. So we've got a really nice geographical spread, and we're looking forward to hearing their insights of what's going on within those community spaces. And thank you very much to the three of them for giving up their time to come and speak to us today. If you have any burning questions to ask while the presentations are ongoing during the first half, please feel free to use the chat box. The second half of the session, the last sort of 25 minutes, will be the Q&A. So really, this is an opportunity for an open discussion where you can ask any questions you have, share any thoughts on your own personal experiences. The floor is open. Obviously, there are a lot of people here, so we will attempt to get through everybody, but if we don't manage to, Arena will pop our contact details in the chat, and you can direct your question to us after the event and we will respond accordingly. So Arena will also be issuing some poll questions through the session, and really that's to get some general feedback on what you thought of today's event. There'll also be a few more targeted questions in relation to what Amy is going to go on to talk about shortly. And just a final note from me on housekeeping, if you could please mute yourselves while others are speaking, as it can be very distracting if you're trying to talk and there's lots of background noise going on. So I think that's it from me, and welcome everybody. And I'll pass over to Amy to introduce herself and to provide a bit of background on Social Enterprise Scotland and what's going on there.
Thanks a lot, Nikki. So hi everyone, my name's Amy Spence. I'm the membership officer here at Social Enterprise Scotland. The Social Enterprise Census consistently shows us that community spaces are one of the most active social enterprise areas, and a large number of our members run vibrant and thriving community spaces. So establishing a kind of practitioners network is something that is quite close to our hearts. So we held, just a bit of background, we held a session dedicating to running community spaces last year, and it was reflected back to us by those that were there that there was an appetite for an informal network for practitioners who run community spaces. So as a result of this, we're looking to start up a network in order to kind of explore topics of interest, hear from key speakers, create opportunities for connection and collaboration, and meet maybe 3 or 4 times a year, as was reflected back from those who attended. The network would be open to anyone, so you don't need to be a member of Social Enterprise Scotland to join. However, if you weren't interested in joining, then I'll post a link in the chat just when I finish talking. Membership is free if your turnover is under 250,000 per year, so it's just a good way to be part of a kind of national network. And we're really keen to engage rural social enterprises in our work as well, which is maybe there's a little bit of a gap there just now. I was actually brought onto the team because I'm from a rural background, and I coordinate the Rural Social Enterprise Network for an organisation called Inspiralba. We're based in Kintyre, so that's kind of the other part of my job. I'll also post a link to that in the chat as well, which the digital platform kind of has loads of learning resources and support for rural social enterprise. So yeah, please join both networks if you haven't already, because it's just a really good way to keep that collaboration going. So to help us arrange the first meeting, I think there's going to be some poll questions come up on the screen. So it would be great if you can just let us know sort of when you'd be interested, if you'd be interested in joining the network, and sort of what time of day would be interesting, you'd be interested to come along to meetings, and then if you'd be interested in speaker slots and things, and we'll follow up with that after this meeting. So I think, is it okay to just hand over to Emma Galloway from Balerno Village Trust now, who is a member of Social Enterprise Scotland and runs a lively community centre?
Great, thank you, Amy. And Emma?
Yeah, if I could have my first slide, Irina, that would be great. And jump onto the second, because that's me. So just to give you a bit of context, I thought I would start by just describing where Balerno is. So you can see us on the map. We are the southwest of Edinburgh. We're very much 8 miles southwest of the city. We are the furthest village from the centre of Edinburgh. So although we are technically urban, we can be quite rural as well. So we kind of cross over between the two. We are known as the gateway to the Pentland Hills. So up in the Pentland Hills, there are reservoirs. These reservoirs were made to send water down the Water of Leith, which is the main thoroughfare that goes to the sea. And Balerno historically was a village that was based on paper mills. So the Water of Leith, the water came out of the reservoirs, went down the Water of Leith. Paper mills, very much industry of the village. Today, it is very much a commuter village. I went on to Visit Scotland website, and we are described as a well-heeled village 7 miles southwest from the centre of Edinburgh. That's us. Anyway, so today we are very much a commuter village. There's geographical challenges because we're right on the edge of the city. There's a high proportion of retired people, and often we are seen as a bit of a dormitory town. So there's a need to get some activity happening in the village. If you move on to the next slide, Irina, that would be great. So just a few photos of some of the stuff we do. So we're probably well known for our farmers market. So we have about 1,000 people every month coming to our farmers market, which is in the village. It's been going for nearly 20 years. And the whole idea was to improve the economy of the village, bring people back and bring life to our main street. It was originally designed to be operated by a commercial market operator, but they pulled out because it wasn't viable. So it's taken over by the community. And we're seeing lots and lots of people coming. Through the market, we do specialist days. So we do Apple Day in the autumn, Tatty Day in the spring. We try and encourage people to grow local, eat local. We've also got a group of gardeners that make the main street of our village look beautiful. But they also work within the Millennium Gardens, which is a local National Trust property. So we have the lease on a local vegetable plot. We do some fun stuff as well. We have a scarecrow competition every year, and we own the last red phone box in the village. We'll move to the next slide as well, Amy, if you don't mind. Thank you. So how are we funded? Well, in 2013, we set up a community benefit society, and this goes back to the reservoirs. So we actually have a turbine, a small hydro turbine. It's a community benefit society, and all the profits come back to Balerno Village Trust. So if you imagine the start of the village, which was we were reliant on the paper mills, the Water of Leith came past. The Water of Leith now generates money again from the village by generating electricity, and at the last couple of years we've actually had a spike in what we've received, because not only has it rained, but electricity prices are quite high. So that has enabled us to do a lot of the work. As a urban village that's not particularly back to the description, a well-heeled village, we struggle to get external funding. So what we find is often that we have to generate our own money, and any money we get in is either based on historical or environmental purposes, but pure funding that's looking at communities, because we have no real markers of deprivation. We don't tend to attract the grant funding. If you move on to the next slide, I've got a lovely picture of our community centre. This is one of our most recent projects. We have been leasing it since 2021. It's currently owned by our local council, and we're looking towards an asset transfer of the building. So we're kind of doing a little bit of a try before you buy. At the moment, it is used a lot during the week and a lot during the evenings as well. So if you move on to the next slide, I can show you some pictures of the inside. So you can see it's quite rough and ready inside. It's three main halls. It's used by dance classes, community groups. We've also managed to get a temporary post office in there because there are no post office services in the village. So the nearest post office is now 6 miles away. So it is quite a move for that one. So we are using it for lots and lots of community activity at the moment. We've also recently undergone quite an exciting project through the CARE scheme, which is community access to renewable energy sources. So if you move on to the next slide, I'll show you some of the pictures. So we got some part grant, part loan funding to enable ourselves to really do a PAR building. And so we started with double glazing. Now, the CARES funding wouldn't fund double glazing, so we funded that via what we get from Harlow Hydro. But the CARES funding paid for loft insulation. We put in LED lighting. We put in solar panels, and it was at that point that we realized we needed a full rewire of the building. So again, we had to pay for that. We have recently put in air source heating, so you can see some of the things we've done. So there's some pictures there of our solar panels, our battery storage, our air source heating, and it's been quite good because for the first time ever, one of our long-term groups said to us, they said, for the first time ever, I feel warm in the building. So we are very delighted with that. And so far, we've reduced our energy consumption by about 50%. So if you could look at that kind of funding, it's definitely worth looking at. If we move on to the next slide, I just want to tell you about something fun that happened to us. So this is, if you look in the background, you'll see that's our community centre. And this is a flyer for a film called The Fall of Douglas Weatherwood. So our little community centre has been used as a film set. We were approached by a production team who were looking to turn our community centre into a visitor centre. So they did a lot of things within the community centre. They turned it into a film set. They rented it off us for 2 weeks. They also, in our conservation village, they turned our hardware store into a camera shop. We were paid rent when they were here, but they also paid for all our groups to be accommodated elsewhere in the village. So in between everything that we managed to do, between both the income we got ourselves, but also the income the other groups got in the village, we reckon that having somebody coming in and do a wee film in your village was an economic benefit of about £10,000 to our local economy, which is all well and good. So last slide, just a bit of next steps. So a year ago, our local police station was deemed surplus by Police Scotland. And so we applied to the Scottish Land Fund for stage 1 funding, and we got stage 1 funding to work up a business plan. And we got some good news 2 weeks ago that Police Scotland have formally agreed to our community asset transfer. So all we need now is our stage 2 land fund funding to come through, and we should be able to turn our local police station into a vibrant community hub as well. So just the importance to us, I mean, what we've recognised over the years is the importance of every single community space that we can possibly get. So our plans for the police station are we're looking to have smaller meeting rooms, which complements what we've got in the community centre. But we're also looking at whether we have an after-school club, because the childcare in the village is very, very tight and people can't get places. So we know that we know we need to increase the amount of childcare and nursery after-school places. So that's what we're looking at for that. So that is me. I'm happy to answer questions at the end, but I think that is my 7 minutes. So I will stop now.
Amazing, Emma. Thank you so much. That was really interesting. I just noticed a comment from Anne about the sound. Is anyone else struggling with sound, or it seems to be okay my end? But please let us know if you're not hearing. people. So we'll move straight on to Roz and address any questions at the end. Roz, if you'd like to unmute yourself.
Hi, hello everyone. I have hundreds of slides and they may not run at the same time as I'm speaking, so you'll have to forgive me. So I am from Collintrive Village Hall. In this slide you can see a picture of our hall in the background. If we could have the next slide, please. Okay, so Collintrive is on the west coast. As Nikki said, we're on the Cowal Peninsula. You can see us circled in red. We are a tiny, tiny village of 109 houses with only about 123 permanent residents, and it's an ageing population. We do have a few families, but it's mainly an ageing population, and it is stretched across about a 15-mile road, the majority of which is kind of very badly maintained single track. And you can see that we are a coastal village, and our access to the nearest town, Dunoon, is sort of a 40-mile round trip, again on very poorly maintained single track roads. So what that means for us is that our village hall is absolutely critical for our community. And it's worth saying that we have a hotel in our village and a post office, but the post office is only open Monday to Friday in the morning. So there isn't very much here. But if we move to the next slide, please. So I mentioned we have the village hall. Irina, maybe if you just run through sort of gently, you know, every few seconds, just turning the slides around. So this is our village hall, but we are also responsible for our community garden, which was the next slide, which was opened in 2003 as a result of a project with the Beechgrove Garden. So I think there's a few slides of our garden. Yeah, so we've got a pond. And it's a reasonably large size of garden, as you can see, with sort of aging trees in there as well. We're also responsible for the village bowling green. So there's a couple of images of these. This one looks much sunnier. And last but not least, we also have responsibility for a heritage centre. And all these, so the bowling green, the garden and the heritage centre are all located in the one sort of central spot in the village. And it works really nicely because it forms a kind of hub for the village. I think the next slide, yeah, just shows some kind of information panels that we've had put up about kind of the wildlife in our area. Okay, so we, as I've said, we're quite a small community, quite rurally sort of isolated. And so as such, what we've recognised as a hall committee is that really the hall is the social hub for our community. And our key focus is that it is a safe and welcoming space for people to come together and meet and spend time with each other. And that was really highlighted after COVID, when of course that sort of facility we had to close and people lost that ability to come together. And so after COVID, it was really sort of well communicated by the community that they really needed this space. And we are used by various different groups for yoga, Pilates, indoor bowls, etc., etc. But as a hall committee, we also run a social programme. And so really from about October through to March, we tend to run a busy winter programme. So the images that you're looking at now are from things that we do, things like a pop-up restaurant. So I think this was a Scottish themed pop-up restaurant. We run quizzes, we run things like bingo and what are they called? Beetle drives, but we also do things like soup and sandwiches and sort of afternoon teas and lots of home baking. So that's our kind of winter programme, and you've seen a selection of images of those. This here is a kind of the fairly recent development for us, is that we received funding from Creative Scotland to buy state-of-the-art cinema equipment, and that was actually quite a challenge for us to start with, navigating the huge complexities of licensing and how we could manage that. But what has happened by forming a sort of a film group is that it has become quite a sort of thriving hub for people to come to. So we run a film programme through sort of, I think the only period it doesn't run is over the summer period, and we show sort of films between every 4 to 6 weeks. We've navigated the licensing issue, and we now have people coming from far and wide, Butte, Stracher, Tinnebrook, and the beauty of that is that, again, it's a social coming together, but we also manage to raise money for that. We don't just cover our costs, we raise a little bit of money for that as well. We also run a Christmas fair, an annual Christmas fair in November that's become very well known. We get a lot of people coming to that. We tend to keep most of our stalls for local producers, and we're not a huge hall, we don't have much room, so we prioritise our local producers for that space, and we always donate half of that money to CHAS, the Children's Hospice charity. We always put up Christmas lights and Christmas decorations because I think that's quite important for our little community to have that nice bit of brightness in a depressing winter. And we run a carol concert, and then I think there's a few photos coming up of our kind of annual Christmas meal that we run for our community, and we receive funding from that. We're lucky to have a wind farm trust and a community council who have funds that we can apply for, and that means that we can host a meal for sort of 70 of our local residents every Christmas, and that is a fantastic way to start Christmas. Our main fundraiser, it's all the events that I've spoken about so far. We don't run them primarily to raise money. We run them so that we're providing a social kind of hub for people. They do make a little bit of money, and we always manage to cover our costs. But really our main fundraising event is our annual fete, which is in August. And we run it the same Saturday every single August, because that means that everyone knows when it is. We get repeat visits. And that really is, you know, it's the same as any fete. We have gardening produce, we have teas, home baking, bric-a-brac, bottle stalls. We're not really reinventing the wheel, but because we've been doing it for so long, we've really managed to perfect what we do. So we have a dog show. You can see some photos of all the dogs. And the fete has really grown from strength to strength over the many, many years it has run, to the point that last year we were lucky enough to bring in over £6,000. So obviously after all our expenses came off that, we sort of had about maybe £4,500 to £5,000 going into our bank account, which really helps to fund us for the rest of the year. And we get a lot of support. So that's our local tractor. Vintage tractor collectors come along and show off their tractors as well. I think there might be a few more slides. We have our duck race. We empty hundreds of plastic ducks into the stream, and then all our local children have to catch them. We have races, and you can see, hopefully from these photos, we run games. It is a well-attended event. We've been lucky that it's been sunny for the last couple of years. I'll move on quickly because I'm aware of time, just to say that I thought it was important to tell you a little bit about what we've learnt as a whole committee over the years. And there's a few things. One simple thing: just put a donations bucket on the door. Never ask for an entrance fee. Just put a donations bucket out, because those people that can afford will always give you more than they would otherwise. And it means that not everyone has to add to that bucket if they're not in a position to do so. And that has really been a bit of a game changer for us. We strive to be open, honest, and consistent with everything that we do. So we tell everyone about what we're doing. We are really active on social media and on all our notice boards, so that everyone knows what we're doing. We do what we say we're going to do when we're going to do it. And the reason that there's all these pictures of baking is because we've built a name for having really good products. We have excellent baking, and we serve local produce, Argyle Coffee Roasters coffee. So it might sound quite basic, but we've got to become known as a place to go if you want really good coffee, really good cake, and a chance to meet and socialise with folk. We've learned not to reinvent the wheel. There's no point, you know, sometimes it's nice to try new things, but we can run a home baking and a tea and coffee session in our sleep. So just do that. And we've also learned that we need to support our community. So there's some photos here. These are some of our local young people. It's a small community. Our young people have to stay in a hostel for the secondary school attendance. We support them with anything they want to do. If they're going to a Tanzania trip, for example, in Africa, we help them raise money to do that. During COVID, when we couldn't come together as a community, we pulled together hampers and distributed those across the entire community. We helped the primary school children run or advertise kind of initiatives that they are running within school. And because we have a real focus on supporting our community, it means that we get community support. So this is a photo of our community members helping with maintaining our community garden. We run community garden events. People come and help us with that. We get people coming to help run the fete. Here's our lots of local people helping serve teas and coffees at the fete. And I think a last example I'll give, because I'm speaking too long, is we during the blackout in the storm in January, we opened our hall. We have a generator and we opened that hall, and it wasn't just the committee that pulled together to do that, it was the entire community. So for the 4 or 5 days that we were without power, our hall was a hub where we had communal food, we shared electricity, everyone came together. And so because we support our community supports us. I have more that I can say about the challenges and stresses, but I will stop now so that everyone else has a chance to speak, and I'd be very happy to answer questions later. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ros. That was absolutely fantastic. And having attended the fete last year, I can certainly agree it was amazingly successful. I couldn't believe how many people were there. So you're obviously doing something very right. So we'll move straight on to Moira, if she could possibly unmute herself. Moira? Is Moira there? Seem to be missing.
She definitely was there.
No, I'm here.
Oh, you're there. Great.
I'm here now. Yes, I've been here. I've been
Brilliant.
here all along. It's been really interesting to hear the other halls, what they get up to and all the rest of it. I'll start with Brodick. That's the Brodick Hall, which is quite a considerable size of a building, as you can see. I'm Moira, and I'm the booking secretary at Brodick Hall on the beautiful island of Arran. As you can see by the slide, the Brodick Hall is an imposing building, which opened in the 10th of May in 1895 and has been the heart of our village ever since. During the World War II, a section of the hall was made available as a schoolroom for evacuees and also as a military for the canteen for the military. The hall now belongs to North Ayrshire Council and is run by a committee of 7. In 2006, the hall was threatened with closure, and a public meeting was called, and a proposal was put forward by the chairman of the hall committee that the council would retain the ownership of the hall, but the committee would formed to take over the bookings and the general day-to-day running of the hall. This was very well received by Brodick residents, and so began a new era for our hall. I've been the booking secretary since 2020, and in this 5 years, we have been faced with some challenges. We were also threatened with a community asset transfer, where the council were hoping the hall would be bought over by uninterested local parties. But as far as we are aware, there was no interest shown, and we carried on as before. I mean, unlike other halls, we're quite a large hall, and it takes quite a lot of looking after this hall. It's a considerable size of a hall. However, another blow came a couple of years ago when the Brodick Nursery, which had been using the hall for about 50 years, were packing up and relocating to the Brodick Primary School. This left a gap of about 9 o'clock in the morning till 3 o'clock in the afternoon during the school term. It was going to be a massive loss to us, and it was a very worrying time. However, it also presented opportunities, and straight away, we were filling a couple of mornings and an afternoon with aerobics classes, and this helped enormously to keep the hall busy. We felt we were actually getting somewhere. And then we joined the 21st century and set up a Facebook page. And soon enough, we were getting inquiries from daytime meetings and the likes. And it's fair to say Brodick Hall is used for various island events, not only Brodick village events. As you can see from that slide how big a hall it is, you know, we've got a balcony and everything. It's quite considerable size. At the end of March last year, our hallkeeper who'd been employed by North Ayrshire Council retired. And as expected, the council were not going to replace Brian. Again, we were anxious as to the future. The council proposed designated key holders. Regular bookings would be given the code to enter and close the building, and there would be no hall keeper in attendance. We were sceptical about this at first, but after an exasperating time, trying to chase up the key holders to complete the paperwork, a few minor hiccups in the beginning, such as lights being left on and things like that, it's all running smoothly. Well, that's the group, that's the drama group, the junior drama group, as you can see from their all smiley faces. So now we have a part-time hall keeper, Wiley, who covers events when there are no key holders, and he also keeps the hall clean. So we're managing to bump along quite easily, quite well actually, without a full-time hall keeper. I'll run through some of the weekly bookings that we have. On a Sunday morning, there's a Baptist church service. This church service, this outgrew a smaller sports hall in the village, and now about 60 people attend this every Sunday morning. And then there's a drumming practice in the afternoon. On a Monday, there's a Keep Fit, another drumming class later on. And on a Tuesday night, there's a choir, which is quite a serious type of choir, very formal, and they take it very seriously, and it's making beautiful music together. And on a Wednesday, there's an art and mime class, which is held in the smaller part of the hall underneath the balcony, which we can take smaller groups, and it's a bit cheaper to hire the hall. And this comes in on a Wednesday morning for people with various different health issues. There's a local band have a practice every Wednesday night. And on a Thursday, there's another drumming class. It seems to be the thing of the moment in Brodick, drumming. On the last Thursday of the month, the U3A hold their monthly meetings. And after that, there's a Keep Fit. And later on the Thursday night, there's a social choir, so more like a group karaoke for grown-ups. And Friday night, there's a pipe band practice, which is every single Friday night. So as you can see, the hall is actually very well used on a daily basis. Oh, that's our committee night out. That's when Brian retired. There are numerous other meetings and conferences, such as MPs and MSPs. We've got MSP surgeries and birthday parties. It's used as a polling station, just a few. But here are a few of the more popular events. In January, there's an art and theatre and arts exhibition of local arts and crafts. January's quite quiet month, really. February, this year we had a march from the hall, from the pier actually, to the hall, in favour of keeping Ardrossan Harbour, because we've been threatened actually with possibly not having our boats going back to the harbour in Ardrossan. So there was a massive march through the village to the pier, and the pier, from the pier to the hall was packed out. It was an amazing sight. On March, we've had a classical concert already. Then the horticultural show on Saturday is a very popular annual event. It's full of flowers, spring bulb show, full of flowers. It's held on a Saturday, and this fills the hall with a riot of colour and perfume. Also, next week, in fact, the junior drama class are putting on a play, and the seniors are also putting a play on the same night. The next month, we've got primary school council, Cayley. And then in May, we've got a mountain festival, which is an annual event of guided walks with a Cayley. Well, the guided walks go on for a week, and then they round off their week with a Cayley. And we're very pleased to welcome back the Ayrshire Fiddle Orchestra. They've not been here for a few years, but they're now coming back again. Excuse me. coming again in May, which is quite a big event as well. Then the Arran Pride, they have an annual march through the village, and they have a Craily at night. The hall looks amazing with all the decorated colours of the Pride. June sees our annual folk festival. Then in June this year, we've got a NABA tribute band, which is a new thing. We haven't had anything like that for a while. The tickets sold out very, very quickly. Then we've got a family fun day, which is bouncy castles and such like, organised by Trust Housing. July, there's a kids summer camp. It runs for 3 days. It started off last year, and they're returning again this year because it was such a success. Arran Open Studios hold an art exhibition over a weekend, running for the last 3 years. They do it all up, make it look fabulous. Highland Games in August take over the hall for the pipe band equipment and the Highland dancing. If they need the Highland dancing, if it's raining, they use the hall as shelter. If we get into the winter months, it gets a wee bit quieter, apart from our every Monday to Saturdays, Sunday to Saturday, in fact. But the one-off events become a wee bit less. And then we get to November, and obviously Christmas fairs, etc., start up, and like the other halls, we sell lots of baking and all the rest of it. And in December, we're very busy month of December with school Christmas concerts, carol concerts, and that sort of thing in December. The hall looks fabulous. I don't think we've got any slides off, I'm afraid. We should have brought some slides for the Christmas. So that brings us to the end of the village, the village party for the children. It finishes off every year, and that's always a great thing. They all get Santa Claus and all get presents and everything. And then the our hall, because it's run by Ayrshire Council, we shut over Christmas and New Year, and that's when all our paperwork is put away and everything's just finished for the year. So that's the end of my 7 minutes. Thank you for listening.
Brilliant, Moira. Thank you so much. Sounds like a very busy wee hall. So I'm surprised you managed to get your presentation into the allocated time. So thank you to all the speakers.